This is the Doug Stewart Show, and I'm your boy, Doug Stewart. Thanks for joining me. Yes. Episode number, I think it's 31? Yeah, episode 31, the week ending June 14th, 2014. And we got a couple of good stories to talk about you with. How was your weekend? Hope everything was well. You can email me, Doug, at thedugstewartshow.com. You can also text the show at 770-847-0536. Continue to tell people about it. Like it. Share it. All of that stuff. I'm going to mention that again a little bit later in today's show. All right, so we got four big stories from this past week in the world of sports and entertainment. We're going to hit all sports pretty much on this show. The four biggest stories. Story number 4, Carmello Anthony. Yeah, Melo opts out of his contract with the New York Knicks, thus making him a free agent. So we got a quasi-decision type thing that happened a couple years ago with LeBron James, which actually could happen again with LeBron James. But let's talk about Carmello Anthony. Guy averaged 27 points a game last year, 8 rebounds. Obviously, the main guy, the focus point of that New York Knicks team, a team that hadn't won a championship since the early 70s. So Carmello was supposed to be the savior of the New York Knicks, and so he opts out of his deal. And my question to him and to New York Knicks fans are, why? Why would you opt out of your deal? I know possibly there's a chance that you'll re-sign with the Knicks for a better deal than you can get with anybody else in the league based on the collective bargaining agreement. But I don't know if this is a ploy or what, but you've got everything you want to be if you want to be the man, if you want to be the focus point, continue to be the focus point of the New York Knicks. Why would you leave that? You're in New York City, the so-called Mecca of basketball. Actually, Carmello was born in New York City before he moved to Maryland. So that's a great situation. You're the guy. You're the dude. It looks like that Carmelo's going to move over to another team to be another piece to a puzzle to win a championship. Now, I don't know if basically what the Miami Heat did and bringing all those guys together is the wave of the future. I don't know if guys just don't have the pride that they did back in the day where they were the focus point of their team and the organization, and they recruited other players to come play with them. That's the way it used to work. It's not working like that anymore. Now, you can look at it and say these guys are just pushing their egos to the side, or you can say these guys are wimping out, okay, which I'm going to get to a story kind of reminiscent of that a little bit later in today's show. So the word on the street is Carmello Anthony is going to go to the Chicago Bulls. That would be a great fit, I guess, because the Bulls need scoring. Outside of Derrick Rose, who's a point guard who you really don't want scoring the basketball at the clip that he does, outside of Rose, they really don't have a scorer, a true scorer on that team. Carmello would definitely be a good fit for the Chicago Bulls. We'll see. So you're hearing a possibility of him going to Miami. You're hearing about all kinds of different things, maybe even Dallas, because Mark Cuban has the money and they've got a nice team set up down there as well. We don't know what's going to happen. I just don't understand why you would leave. His wife, loves New York City. She does a lot of things. Lala does a lot of things outside of on her own as far as her own business interests. So if I'm Carmello, I make Phil Jackson and the organization build around me. You're in New York City, okay? Money outside of basketball is not going to be any more plentiful than it is playing in Gotham City. So why not stay there, get better? They need a lot of pieces. They need a lot, okay? But they can pay you more than anybody else. If I was Carmello Anthony, I would stay there. Story number 3 in the Funky 4 biggest stories in the week ending June 22nd, 2014. Michael Vick says he revolutionized the quarterback position. Here's a quote. He says, "I was the guy who started it all." Vick said to reporters on Fridays about the trend of running quarterbacks. "I revolutionized the game. I changed the way it was played in the NFL." Now, whenever you talk about Michael Vick, you got to be very, very cautious. Michael Vick is probably accurate in the statement to the most part. The reason I said that is because now you have these quarterbacks like Russell Wilson and Colin Kaepernick and Cam Newton and all of these guys that are kind of reminiscent of the way Mike Vick came into the NFL playing the quarterback position. So I think he probably has a point. My question is, one, why would you say it? Because it sounds like the most conceited thing in the world to say. And I guess it's a guy being honest, To a degree, he has influenced a lot of young guys coming into the NFL, playing the game the way that he did when he first got into the league. Emphasizing the running attack of a quarterback, much more the athleticism of a quarterback. Now, you've had quarterbacks in the past that were athletic, that ran the ball, but not to the clip of Michael Vick. When I think about quarterbacks like that, I think about Steve Young. I think about Randall Cunningham. Randall Cunningham's probably the guy that I would say really revolutionized the quarterback position. The thing about that separates Randall Cunningham and Michael Vick to me is in the statement he says he revolutionized the position. He changed the way the game is played. See, when Randall Cunningham played that style of football, it wasn't to the degree that Michael Vick did. And nobody really came after Randall Cunningham for a long period of time that was like him and that said, I'm going to play quarterback like Randall Cunningham. You understand what I'm saying? So I kind of get it. I think if you were to say who's the guy that's responsible for the style of quarterback you see now, and the style of quarterback that a lot of teams in college are even utilizing in these spread offenses and these option spread offenses, I think it probably would be Michael Vick. I just don't know if you need to say it in that manner, especially what you've been through over the last couple of years. You might want to humble yourself a little bit, Vick. But he's probably true. The closest next thing is probably Randall Cunningham. But once again, it didn't take off after Randall Cunningham's career like it did at the beginning and during and the ending part of Mike Vick's career. Story number 2. The Washington Redskins are in the news again. The United States Patent and Trademark Office canceled 6 federal trademark registrations for the NFL's Washington Redskins on Wednesday, saying the nickname is disparaging to Native Americans and cannot be trademarked under federal law that prohibits trademark protection on offensive or disparaging language. And Daniel Snider has already come out and said that they're going to fight this. This actually happened one time before, but they actually appealed it and won the appeal. Daniel Snider is steadfast in saying that he will never change the Washington Redskins name and mascot. My question to Daniel Snider is why? Why would you vehemently fight this? Okay, there's a lot of things that were accepted and done, and I talked about this in a prior episode, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. There's a lot of things that were done and said 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 400 years ago that are just ridiculous when you think about them now. So, to me, and I really believe this is going to come to fruition, he is going to be viewed 20 years after the fact when they do change the name, which they are going to have to change the name at some point. He is going to lose this fight. He's going to be viewed almost like the governor of Alabama, George Wallace, in his stance against segregation. Okay? That's how far off base Daniel Snider is with his fight against this. He's going to look so bad after the fact. I'm serious. And the best comparison I could come up with is George Wallace in the state of Alabama and segregation. I mean, seriously. And the crazy thing about it to me is if you change the logo and you come up with new paraphernalia, new license stuff, and you got a new logo and maybe even new colors, I don't know, you're going to sell a ton of stuff. So why is he fighting this? It makes no sense. Whenever a team changes, if they come out with something modern, new, and fresh, something that the kids like, they're going to sell a lot of new stuff. Okay? They are. That's why when you get rid of a player in sports, they don't sell that stuff anymore because it's, nobody wants it. It loses its luster. So why is he fighting this? He is making himself look so bad. He is going to lose this. Okay? And history is going to show him to look like, no other way to look at it, a bigot. All right? in my opinion, if it offends one person legitimately, okay, not illegitimately, if it offends one Native American, which I know it offends several Native Americans, hundreds of thousands, I don't know, but it does. It's on record. If it offends one of them, you got to change. You got to do what's right. And the last story in the Funky Four, the four biggest stories in the world of sports this past week, ending June 22nd, 2014, is Pat Riley. Pat Riley calls out his team after losing the NBA Finals to the San Antonio Spurs and saying, quote, "This stuff is hard and you got to stay together if you got the guts." That's a quote from Pat Riley. Pat Riley saying, in effect, if you leave, you don't have guts. Now, it's funny he says that because what was he telling LeBron James when he got LeBron James to leave the Cleveland Cavaliers some 4 years ago? Was he telling him that? No, he wasn't. Clearly he wasn't. And that's the problem, or one of the problems I have with LeBron James, is because, in effect, Pat Riley is being a hypocrite here to a large degree, and for the most part, he's right. Okay? But why weren't you saying that when he left Cleveland, LeBron James? Okay? I think most people agreed with the statement, but when it pertains to LeBron James, they got amnesia. Yes, that's a huge problem. The fact that when things got rough, you ran. It's true. That's one of the main issues I have with LeBron James. Just sounds very hypocritical to me that Pat Riley would say something like this. And people have called him out on it all weekend long. So I'm not the only one that recognizes it. And I guess he's doing what he has to do, and he's being a hypocrite. He's like, damn, that I got to be a hypocrite. I got to get this guy to stay. I got to try to keep this team together. So I get that. Love Pat Riley. Obviously, I'm a Laker fan. But in this case, he's a hypocrite. It's true, but he shouldn't be saying it of all people. That's right. All right? That's the Doug Stewart right there show. That's the Doug Stewart Show right there for you. Once again, you can email me, Doug@thedougstewartshow.com. You can also text me at 770-847-0536. Tell people about the show. Like the show. Share it. Retweet. Do all of those things. And the big thing is to subscribe to the show. Need subscribers, all right? It's the Doug Stewart Show.